Hello, and welcome to Black Marriage Therapy, BMT for short. Here we become students of marriage in order to create healthy, long-lasting relationships. I'm your host, Kristen Smith, and in today's episode, we discuss the importance of trust in marriage. Trust is gained in drops and lost in buckets. Many of us have heard this quote before and know it to be true. Whether you were the one who lost trust in someone or the person who spilled the bucket, everyone knows the feeling of losing trust in someone or losing someone's trust. On either end, the feeling sucks. These betrayals can make it hard to trust in the future, especially with an intimate partner. However, trust begets trust. So in order to build trusting relationships, it is necessary that we give trust. This can be difficult, but it is possible. In marriage, this principle is not only essential, it is foundational. Trust is embedded in every fiber of a relationship, and without it, you cannot have a healthy, long-lasting relationship. In this episode, we will define trust, speak on trust issues, how to repair broken trust, and tips on how to build trust in relationships. Before we jump into the meat and potatoes of this episode, I would like to give you guys a little update on Black Marriage Therapy. As many of you guys know, I am a student in the Marriage and Family Therapy program, so I'm on my way to become a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I am now a mother of two. So I'm gonna just be real, y'all. Things have hit the fan. The amount of times that people have been sick in my house, the amount of times that I have gone to the ER, the amount of times that I have just been breastfeeding through the night, not getting sleep, all these different things is really starting to wane on me. And because of that, I have decided to step back a little bit on the podcast. Instead of 4 episodes, I'm going to be doing 2 episodes. I am trying to learn how to work out of abundance and not out of scarcity. I feel like in order to provide great content, I have to cut back because there's so much on my plate. And although it's difficult for me because I want to be superwoman and I want to do everything and to be a great student, great wife, great mother, great podcaster, great, all these different things, I have to make sure I'm not overwhelming myself and kind of understanding that what I'm doing is enough. So that's a whole episode in itself. If you're following me on Instagram at Black Marriage Therapy, then you'll get all the updates on all the new episodes and when they'll be coming out. So it'll be twice a month from now on. So starting in June, we'll get 2 episodes and so forth and so on. Thank you guys so much for the support. And I love that you guys are loving the podcast. Let's get into the topic of trust. So first and foremost, like we have to do in most of our episodes, we have to define trust. I think that in relationships, it's easy for us to say, yeah, we want trust and we want to be trusted, but sometimes it can be hard to pinpoint specifically what that means. I think everyone can understand the feeling of trust, but may not be able to put into words exactly what that means. So I'm going to start with the basic definition of trust. Trust is defined as a firm belief in the reliability, truth, and ability or strength of someone or something. That's a basic definition. But I'm going to go instead with a definition from a psychologist named Sabrina Romanoff. And she says, to trust means to rely on another person because you feel safe with them and have confidence that they will not hurt or violate you. Trust is the foundation of relationships because it allows you to be vulnerable and open up to a person without having to Defensively protect yourself. Sorry, that was a mouthful. But that was from Sabrina Romanoff. What I love from this definition is she's talking about the confidence that they will not hurt or violate you. I think that is the like a simplified version of trust. It's that confidence. So I'm not gonna sit here and lie to y'all. At the beginning of my relationship, I had major trust issues. Like the confidence that they will not hurt me or violate me, I had zero confidence. I had negative 50 confidence. And it wasn't just from my intimate relationship with my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. It was for everyone. And I think it was interesting because trust issues that you may have with friends or with parents or cousins or whatever, they can easily spill over into your relationship. Like, you're a human being. It's like, as much as we want to compartmentalize and say, oh, just for this person, I'm going to put this here. That's not how our real human feelings work. They roll over into other relationships. And that was true for me. I had trust issues with my parents, and I just shut myself off. I was just like, I'm just not going to trust anyone. And I had no confidence that people weren't going to hurt me or violate me. In the beginning of my relationship, this made it very, very difficult for my husband and I to connect. We literally joke about it now, but my husband said that I had like 10 walls up. And he would joke and say like, oh, the first one was like straw, and he had to do this, and then that one fell down, and the second one was like rocks, and then he did this and it fell down, and sticks and so forth. And he said that eventually it got to a point that the steel wall, right, which is the thickest one, like right at my heart, he was finally able to knock down. But it took years and years and years and years and years in order for me to have confidence that my husband was not going to hurt me or violate me. What I've described may sound familiar to some of you guys listening. And, a lot of people may have heard of trust issues, like, oh, she got trust issues or he got trust issues, and all those different things. And what is trust issues? Trust issues is simply put, like, if having trust is having confidence that somebody is not going to hurt you or violate you, having trust issues is having no confidence or low confidence that someone is going to hurt you or violate you. Some signs of trust issues are you focus on the negative. You feel like you have to do everything. Like, I can't trust anyone. I'm just going to do it myself. Being suspicious of friends and family. Always looking at everything that everyone's doing and trying to make meaning out of it. You may have some trust issues. Avoiding intimacy. Intimacy requires vulnerability. If you do not trust, then you cannot be vulnerable. To be vulnerable means to open yourself up. And if you cannot have confidence that that person will not hurt you once you open yourself up, then you cannot be intimate. Some other ones are holding grudges, picking fights, keeping to yourself, avoiding commitment, spying or checking people's phones. Now that's like extreme, but checking people's phones. Okay. You are a loner. You find yourself in a relationship with untrustworthy people. Sometimes trauma begets trauma. Like, we attract what we got going on inside of us. You smother people you care about. That basically means that this is my best friend. They're going to be my best friend forever. My best friend can't have any other best friends. And it's a fear that that person is going to leave you or abandon you. So you feel like you have to hold on tight to them. You kind of have to like cage them into just be with you. And of course, the next one is fear of abandonment. These are some signs, if you're dealing with certain things like this, that you might have trust issues. And trust issues can be caused by a lot of different things: abuse, low self-esteem, betrayal in other relationships, childhood trauma, abandonment issues, fear of rejection, loneliness, bullying, attachment disorders. Guys, the list goes on and on and on. There are so many reasons and unfortunately so many opportunities for us to have trust issues and lose trust. And the reason for that is because the quote that we started with, trust is gained in drops and lost in buckets. Every day is an opportunity to gain or lose trust. So trust issues, and all these things is not a foreign concept to the most of us. So in the beginning of our relationship, I was definitely the one that struggled a lot with trust issues. My husband is a person who it's kind of easy for them to trust. Like he just kind of starts off with trust and then like you can lose trust from there. I'm the type of person like you have to earn trust. Like every single person I run into, they start with zero and we have to build trust up. So I was definitely the one that was struggling with trust. I had abandonment issues. I definitely had some security, like insecurities, not physically, not for myself, but like with people keeping me safe and keeping my heart and my emotions safe. I was insecure in that way. And it was very difficult in the beginning of our relationship, of course, to build intimacy and to connect because I would distance myself. I would push myself away because I did not have confidence that my husband would not hurt me. And I don't think it wasn't because he's a bad guy or because he was showing me that there was a reason to mistrust him. It was just because my own background, my own past when it comes to trusting people. So now the dynamics of our trust has changed. We're going on 10 years of marriage. It's been a long time, and our trust issues have deepened a little bit. And it's on the other foot, actually. My husband is the one who's having issues trusting me. A lot has changed in our relationship in the past 3 years or so, and we are for sure going through a transition. There are so many things that we're trying to juggle and figure out while maintaining our marriage, and it is affecting our marriage. No one's on the verge of divorce here, but I'm just being vulnerable and transparent, telling you the truth. As you go through different seasons of your relationship, as you go through different transitions, there are things that has to be worked on and things that kind of come uncovered as well. And one of those things for us is trust. But this time it's my husband having issues trusting me. There's quite a few different ways and he's trusting me, but one of the ways is me keeping my word. And for men, I have learned this is extremely imperative. This is almost like the key to their heart is trust. And you do that by keeping your word. And I have been finding it difficult while juggling school and podcasting and children and all these different things to keep my word the way I was able to before. Like if I said, oh yeah, we're going to have some sexy time, tomorrow and this and this happened, and sexy time doesn't happen, I just lost my trust. There was a betrayal there, and I'm not keeping my word. So there's also other ways as I'm going through my own healing journey and discovering myself in a new way as a mother and as a businesswoman, as just a older late 20s woman. There's other things that are being uncovered that is affecting the trust in our relationship. Like many things in other relationships, this came about through a heated argument. We're arguing about God knows what. And what comes up is, hey, I don't trust you. And although it was hurtful to hear, I was happy to know what the issue was and how we can fix it. And that leads me to my second point. What happens when trust is broken, and can it ever be repaired? The answer is it depends. When trust is broken, it can be hard or difficult to rebuild it again. Because back to the quote that we started with, is gained and drops, is gained on a daily basis by you keeping your word and, by you being committed and all these different acts that you do on a daily basis to gain trust. But unfortunately, when there's a betrayal, everything that you've been working for can be just thrown out the window, depending on how bad it is. And that's why it says, can you rebuild trust? It depends if the two people are willing to go on the journey wholeheartedly and do the work. That's the person who was betrayed and the person who did the betraying. It takes two in order for you to rebuild trust. And if that is not there, it may be hard or even impossible to rebuild trust. Now, these examples that I'm giving you of how to rebuild trust is something that I feel like I'm going through as we speak. Like I am learning to do these steps in order to rebuild trust with my husband. John Gottman is a psychologist who has done tons of research in something called the Love Lab about marriage and relationships. And I've spoken about him before on this podcast. He wrote a book called What Makes Love Last: How to Build Trust and Avoid Betrayal. And these are secrets from the Love Lab. In this book and in other materials, he talks about how when it comes to trust and betrayal, that in order to rebuild trust, not only does it take two people, but it takes specifically three things: atonement, attunement, and attachment. Now, when we're talking about betrayal, there's so many different kinds. I think oftentimes when we think of broken trust, usually in relationship, we may go straight to infidelity or cheating of some sort, whether that's flirting, whatever you describe as cheating, flirting or sexual or texting or emotional or whatever that thing is. That's usually where our minds go to when we say broken trust in relationship. But there's so many different ways that you can break trust in relationships. Like I mentioned, not keeping your word is a way of breaking trust. The book also goes over different ways that you break trust in relationship outside of infidelity. Some of them are like conditional commitments, which means that you're only there partially half the time. Having a habit of lying, that's an easy one to kind of pinpoint. Like you're always lying to the person, you're breaking their trust, betraying them, even if it's like little white lies or like maybe baby lies. Another one is being cold or distant. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Disrespect is another one. So if you read the book, you're going to find more of those things. But back to rebuilding trust. It takes three things: atonement, attunement, and attachment. Atonement. Let's start first with atonement. Atonement is the thing that goes beyond just saying I'm sorry. Atonement is, in its definition, is literally repairing a wrong. And in order for us to atone, there's a few things that we have to do. So the first thing is to listen to the other person's anger and hurt feelings. And I'm going to add to that without getting defensive. Sometimes, and I'm raising my own hand, some people, me, when you're confronted with being hurt, with hurting someone or wronging someone, it makes you feel bad and ashamed, and therefore you want to protect yourself from that feeling, so you get defensive and you kind of push it back onto the person. And if you're doing that after already hurting someone and injuring someone, then it kind of just adds gasoline to the fire. You're not really repairing the situation. So in order to start to repair, you have to listen to the other person and their hurt feelings. You have to sit in it and allow the person to express themselves without getting defensive, without trying to explain, yourself, or without trying to make them explain it in a way that makes sense to you or is logical to you. It doesn't have to be logical. All you need to know is that they were hurt. The next thing is to empathize with them. That means really understanding why they feel the way they feel. And that takes empathy. That takes putting yourself in their shoes, walking them out in their day, and really thinking about, wow, why is it that they're feeling, and understanding it, not just thinking about it, but understanding it. The next thing is ask what is needed to prevent a reoccurrence. What can I do so this doesn't happen again? Be this is a big word. Be conscientious to do all the things listed that show trustworthiness. Take full responsibility for your actions. Don't sidestep the issue or try to shift blame to the other person. That can be hard if you are a person that struggles with defensiveness. 6, make a heartfelt apology expressing your regret. And the last one is continue to have an open and honest communication. Again, trust is gained in drops. This is not something that, when it comes to atonement, this is not something that is just going to happen in one night or 1 week or even a month. Sometimes, depending on the level of betrayal, it may take a few months of, listening to the person and how they feel about what's going on, empathizing with them, asking them, okay, how can I make it better? It may take time in order for them to rebuild that trust with you. The next thing that Dr. John Gottman and his wife, who's also a psychology, shout out to a power couple, okay? Couple goals. The next one is attunement. So straight from the book, this is in chapter 6, Trust and the Roots of Attunement. It says that when couples can understand each other at a deep level and lovingly express that knowledge to each other, real intimacy exists between them. This ability, which we call attunement, is second nature to some lucky couples, but many others who are just as devoted find it challenging. Fortunately, attunement is comprised of skills that almost all couples can learn or learn to strengthen. So attunement is having that deep understanding and being able to express yourself. I think that's super important. Being attuned with one another, bringing each other closer. So after atonement, you guys can attune by having that deeper level of understanding and expressing those emotions, and kind of putting your best foot forward in order to try to avoid future betrayals by having that strong communication, having that strong connection, and being able to express how you feel about certain things. So after you atone and attune, then you can attach. And attachment is what it sounds like, which is coming together and having something that they call rituals of connection. And these things could be like eating meals together, without your phones, having short conversations, exercising together, kissing, dating, all these type of things. And these are different ways for you to just connect again and build that attachment after trust is lost. So that leads me to my last point for today, which is how to build trust in a relationship. As I mentioned before, for some people, it comes pretty easy. They just start with 100% and you lose it as it goes. But for others, trust has to be earned, where they start at 0% and you kind of have to build upwards. No matter what side you're coming from, trust begets trust. In order for there to be trust, you have to give trust. And it is necessary for relationships. So in your relationship, if you want to continue to build trust and have a healthy, trusting relationship, here are some ways that you can do that. Number 1, say what you mean and mean what you say. This one I think is super important, and this is the one that I'm working on. And sometimes you're not breaking commitments out of not caring for the person, but you're breaking commitments because you're not setting boundaries for yourself. For example, if I know that I am I'm gonna have the girls all day and I have to cook dinner and I have to do some homework and I have to do all these things, I'm not going to then tell my husband, yes, I can do this thing for you, when I know that I can't. Instead, I'm going to say, yes, on Saturday I can do this thing for you because that's when I'm free and I'm available. So when you keep your word, you show to the person that you care for them. So if you want to practice building trust in your relationship, practice keeping your word. And sometimes that means that you have to just reevaluate yourself. Because sometimes breaking promises, as I mentioned before, is not about trying to hurt the person, but it's about, trying to please the person. And it's always better to say no and mean no than to say yes and mean no. I've learned that the hard way, trust me. The next one, another way you can build trust in your relationship is to communicate your intentions clearly. Assumptions and expectations are like termites to a relationship. They are these small little things that go unnoticed that is eating at your relationship without you noticing it until one day it all comes crumbling down. Now, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I am trying to be a little dramatic. Assumptions and expectations, come on, guys, will ruin your relationship. It is so important that we communicate our intentions clearly so that we can build trust. For example, I would like to spend quality time with you this week. Your spouse is not a mind reader. If you say clearly what you want, then it's easier for them to actually do what you want. But if you're dropping subtle hints instead of being more direct, then it may leave room for assumptions and, people getting caught off guard. And that over time can deteriorate trust, and you don't want that to happen. So it's important that you communicate your intentions clearly. Another one is admitting your mistakes. I'm just going to slowly raise my hand here. And if you're with me, just raise your hand as well. Okay. This one is hard for me. I am learning and working through this. And I know that it's a trauma response. And I know I do it to keep myself safe. And it's not good. But, oh, man, it is deeply embedded. Anyways, woo, I've been working on me. It's a little TikTok joke. Anyways, admitting your mistakes is imperative when it comes to building trust. It is absolutely necessary. Admitting your mistakes shows your partner that you can be accountable. This gives them confidence that even if you do hurt them, that you will take responsibility, you will take accountability, and you will do what it takes and be committed in order to not make that mistake again. It's as simple as that. So admitting your mistakes is extremely imperative to building trust in your relationship. The last way that you can build trust in relationships is by always telling the truth. This one seems simple, right? Like, just don't lie. But you'll be surprised how many people lie. And it's not always to be malicious. Sometimes people lie to get out of conflict. Sometimes people are lying to like protect somebody's feelings, all these different type of things. But it is important for you to tell the truth in order to build trust. People want to be able to trust your words. And if you lie sometimes in the little things, how can they believe you in the little? If you lie in the little things, how can people believe you when it comes to the bigger things? And telling the truth doesn't mean that you have the answers all the time. Telling the truth means you can say, oh, I'm not sure right now, or I'm feeling very emotional about this and I want to take a step back. And it's just being emotionally honest. And this allows the person to trust that you are not trying to deceive them or violate them. It gives them confidence that your intention is not to hurt them. And honesty is just an easy way, it's a no-brainer really, to help build trust in relationships. That is all that I have for you guys in this episode on trust. We went over the definition of trust and trust issues, how to repair when trust is broken, and tips to build trust in your relationship. To end the episode, I would like to leave you guys with a quote from Dr. John Gottman on trust. He says that trust is built as you express compassion and empathy for one another's feeling. And this foundation is essential when you face the inevitable betrayal. Betrayal exists in every relationship. More often than not, the betrayals accumulate like small dents. Other times, they arrive like a sudden crash. In both cases, they present a unique opportunity for trust building. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Black Marriage Therapy, BMT for short. If you haven't yet, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Black Marriage Therapy. Thanks again for listening, and see you again next week